And we should be live according to StreamYard. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wizardly Ramblings. This is the third iteration of said chat show, and here I have with me Nico. There we go. Haha! I remember the thing
Hello.
that the camera does. Nico from Nico's Book Reviews. Nico, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, hi, I am Nico from Nico's Book Reviews, and I am a big fantasy nerd. Read all things fantasy mostly, but some other stuff mixed in there too sometimes. And yeah, looking forward to doing some more Wizardly Ramblings because Andrew and I ramble to each other all the time. So now we're just doing it for your amusement instead of just for ours. So,
Yeah, so I was actually
how that
gonna
other
straight
guy?
up mention, uh, Theo, you know it's me. I was gonna straight up mention that we just message each other and talk pretty much all day, and so it's kind of interesting to do that live on camera now. So this could be entirely boring or entirely entertaining, depending
Never know.
on what happens. And Anitha is of course surprised that we were right on time, or is it in time? I'm gonna assume that was a typo, Anitha.
I mean, no thanks to me. I showed up like a minute and a half before we went live.
Yeah, like I'm messaging him. I'm like, hey, we're going live in 1 minute. Where are you? Come back
I'm
here.
so sorry. No, okay, sorry.
So how was your day today, Nico?
Oh, worked, did some reading. I'm uh, I'm reading The Way of a Dan by Philip Chase. I don't know if
Nice.
anybody's ever heard of him, but been a
He's
good
this
book so far.
really small booktuber that I think is really gonna catch on here in a minute.
It definitely may happen. Then I got audio. One of my favorite covers, When the Goddess Wakes,
Oh
and
yeah, okay, yeah. So that's the one that
okay.
you've got that one in hardcover, don't you?
Yeah, I have the series. So the first book was really fun. The second two books are a lot more serious and a little less fun. Still good, but I mean, just that cover. You got a gigantic
Yeah.
dragon. That's cool. Always gonna be cool.
Theo wants to know, how did we meet? Do you want to kind of give? I always tell this story. It's your turn.
Okay, I can tell the story. So yeah, it was kind of random. So I was a extremely tiny channel for a while because I made videos for like 7, 8 months, which was just audio. I had no video. I wasn't on camera, and I just talked about books, and nobody watched them. I was talking into the void, and then randomly, slowly read. I'm sure he's pretty big now too. He shouted me out randomly because he had seen some of my videos somehow, and then he doubled my subscribers overnight from like 25 to 50. That's how small I was. Andrew happened to be one of those first early subscribers. And then there was somebody randomly commented on one of my videos wanting to do a buddy read of just anything. And so I'm like, sure, let's do a buddy read. And so decided to do a buddy read of American Gods. And they're like, do you have a Discord? And I'm like, I sure don't, but let's make one. So I made a Discord, and then Andrew he was one of the first people to join there, and we just started chatting and just like clicked like instantly, and then yeah, now to where we are now, we've met in person several times and come to
Almost
hang
every
out,
six
and
months, like clockwork, for the last like
it
year and a
seems to be
half.
about every 6 months now is kind of the thing. So I like to go there, talk about books. It's my wife and I go visit Andrew and his family, and Andy boy also Nico got them books. Thank you.
That's Daniel. That's who you sent Jason Graves to.
Yes, perfect. So I was looking. I'm like, I know that name. I'm used to seeing your screen name, but I was going to say I sent it to you, your name. So
He
glad
he
they aligned.
uses he uses that screen name because he used to be part of some gaming discords,
I
and he
gotcha.
just kind of carried it over.
Yeah, yeah. So that was basically how it happened. So it was American Gods. Even though Andrew had already read it, he decided to join the Discord anyway.
Yeah,
And then yeah,
initially the Weasley Duo Discord, before it was Nico, it was Nico's Book Reviews Discord, but it was specifically created for
I'm
American
not good at
Gods.
naming things.
And oh god, what was her name?
Rose K
Yeah,
reads.
Rose K Reads. There we go. Rose K Reads was the one who helped you create that Discord, or you created to do the buddy read with. And I think I
Yeah,
was like the fifth member to join the Discord. I was like
it's
first
pretty
five.
early on.
Um,
I was gonna say, I
Ate a
know
bunch
I've
of
heard
wings.
Andrew tell it a time or two, or whatnot. Yeah, because we've done a lot of collab things. There's actually, I should probably take it down because it's so bad. We did one of the earliest collabs we did was talking about King's Dragon, and like it was for either we were both using terrible webcams and like
Oh
nobody else
gosh,
knew
it was
anything.
horrible.
I had no idea how to edit it or make it look good. It was the whole thing was so bad.
I
And so
think that's still live, or that's still viewable. Is it? Did you take it down?
I don't think I ever took it down. I probably should, but do you want to see a really terrible video?
Back when you still had hope that I'd read that series.
I'm hoping one day. I know it's one you're gonna have to be in the mood for, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I did get the what is this? Spirit Walker. There we go. I did get Spirit Walker. So there is hope. Hope has not died of me reading Kate Elliott.
I say Kate Elliott's got a bunch of series of different styles, so there's plenty to choose from. And Chrono Stars will have audio for all of the books pretty soon too. So I figure I might be able to get
Really?
you to sneak that. Yeah, it's out for most of them. I think it's maybe the last two are still going, but it's been pretty go.
Patrick's
Love and
being funny.
support, and no, it's my wife actually is very supportive. I don't she doesn't fully get it, nor does she really care particularly much, but she would always like when it's so one of the reasons Andrew and I clicked so fast, we have very similar taste in books, and I know pretty much nobody in my normal day-to-day life that reads, let alone reads the stuff that I do. And so I have nobody to really talk about books for, which is why I started a booktube channel before I even knew what booktube was. I just was, like I said, nobody was watching. I wasn't part of any communities. I didn't know there was a community. I just was like talking my thoughts into the void because I'm like, I just want to talk about books. But my wife would sometimes like listen and like I could see her eyes glazing over. She's trying so hard to like care about what I'm saying, but it's just not her thing, which is totally fine. But yeah, so I mean she's joined a couple of videos. She'll probably pop in at some point and comment in here. She usually will hop on live streams and whatnot. So it's
Layla's my biggest fan.
yeah.
She's my biggest fan.
She's probably your kid's biggest fan, but you she's all
Yeah,
right
that's
with.
true.
So
That's true. She
but
tolerates my existence because I have kids she wants to kidnap.
yes, Christopher Novo, very much support. I love Crime of Stars. It's
I
one of those
actually
ones I've known so few people who have read it, but it's like it's one of my favorites.
Chris just actually started his channel like
Yeah,
within the last couple of weeks. So and he's already like leagues better than where we were when we started. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous the amount. Like, he's like Theo level quality, rekindled reader. Like, it's just bam, starts his channel looking fantastic. Meanwhile, like, I had like crap camera, no editing software, no good setup, one bookshelf.
I just think I started out pretty bad because once again I never planned to. I didn't ever think I would actually like be the size that I am at all, and so I never planned like, oh, I need to get this, get that, or anything like that. I just am like, I'm just recording audio, and the audio probably wasn't even very good at the time. I was using like a wireless mic headset, um, and it probably wasn't very good. And so I like then I'm like, okay, well, crap, I got to get a webcam because I didn't even own a webcam. And so, and I eventually I got to where I am now, which is still not like super high quality, but it's probably where I'm going to max out. Oh,
So Jane wants to know how often do we recommend books to each other? It's funny. We will talk. I don't know. Do we like technically recommend books to each other all the time, or do we just start talking about the books and we're like, yeah, you might like this one? Like,
we
that's
do
kind of
talk
very
about a
silent.
lot. I feel like you add something to my TBR like every damn day though, with the way you go through books. But yeah, we'll just chat and like so somebody he'll just like tell me about what he's reading. I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. I'm gonna add that to the list. And other times he'll definitely be like, oh, you gotta check this out. It's so good. And that's why my list is like never ending. Um, I get through a lot of stuff less, just because he's read he reads way faster than I do and has read a lot of stuff. I'm usually trying to catch up. So I recommend him stuff too, but like, something recent that I raved about a while back that he loved was Cycle of Fire by Janny Wirtz. So, like, I'm playing that long game. That's where I'm still hoping Crown Stars. But yeah,
I finished
it was
it.
like I was gonna say I told you to read that so long ago, and you got it almost immediately, and then it took me
Yeah,
a
I
while to
bought it.
get
It's
to
been
it.
on the shelf. It hasn't been on hold. I mean, it's got a
Yeah,
wizard on the cover. Like, it's got a
I
wizard with like
love
a
this cover.
storm falcon right there. How was I not gonna read it?
Yeah,
But
I
it just took me
randomly
a minute.
found
The
that
rate
version.
in which I get books added to my shelf is ridiculous. Like, I'm actually just now starting to slow down. Like, I've literally like hit a point where I've got 6 shelves and more than half of it is unread. More than half of it is unread. So like I'm starting to feel the slowdown coming, at least for right now, mainly because I just filmed a book haul. And I had stacks of books on my desk, like a foot above my head on each side, and I was like, this should do me for a little bit. And if it
My
doesn't,
last
I
one
need
wasn't that bad.
therapy. Reading Riley, I saw your serious question. Serious question: are black bookshelves a dude thing or a fantasy thing? I don't know that question. I just always kind of so my wife really likes black furniture. So in this case, the reason I have black shelves is because my wife likes black furniture.
I just so like my the first shelf I had is like wood colored and it's not black. And then the reason I did it partially because my wife also kind of likes black, but this one in the middle here my wife had made for me. And it's you can't see it with the other shelves on the sides, but it's got like chapter icons from Wheel of Time in silver on the sides. And design and whatnot. So black made that stuff stand out the best. And so I'm like, oh, I got to get black to match it. But I don't know. I feel like black is just it goes with everything, and like I feel like the color stands out a little more with it too. So
Yes. So I just got a rare copy of one of Wertz's books that I bought off of eBay that I'm waiting to show up, and I'm praying it's in good shape. I got the hardcover Master of Whitestorm, which is only in
oh,
hardcover for UK libraries. Like that's what she told me. They were initially issued only to the libraries in the UK. And so I'm hoping that shows up in good condition. Also, that one also has an audio, so I may also do that one on audio because that book is so rare. I don't want to either that or else I'll do ebook. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I went on a Janny Wirtz binge where I just started buying as many Janny Wirtz books as I possibly could. That's kind of your fault as well.
I'm aware and okay with it.
Like it was like you started talking about Janny Wirtz. And then like everybody else started talking about Janny Wirtz. And so then I was like, well, I bought this Janny Wirtz trilogy because of Nico. Why don't I check out and see what all the fuss is about? And then I fell in love with Storm Warden. I do think Storm Warden is my favorite of the trilogy. Mainly because I think the structure and the character and the themes are so strong. But it's a fantastic trilogy overall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Troy's just like, oh look, we're here. We're here to talk some Janny Wirtz.
Oh man, I can and literally have talked for hours about Janny Wirtz once with Janny Wirtz.
Yes,
So
jealous.
it's
It's coming.
yeah.
It's coming. I'm gonna have her on the channel.
As I say, I'm gonna at some point I'm setting up an interview with her, which I hadn't announced yet, but it is coming. I just have to. I have another interview I still have to schedule before that one. And so I'm like, I had already lined up somebody and had them agree to an interview, and I just need to get a time set up with them. And so that's where I'm like, okay, so I'll set up another one. But yeah, it's like I got
I feel
lucky
like
enough
that.
to jump in to a buddy read that she was doing videos with. So.
So why do you read? Like what is so appealing about reading? Let's do an actual question while my
Right.
computer yells at me.
So I've pretty much always been a reader, and I went like I when I was younger, I read a ton, and I slowed down a little bit early in my adult life, partially because I didn't have like money to just go out and buy a bunch of books. And I was always reading something from time to time, but It's just in general, and fantasy was something I started really early on. Um, that's my next Kate Elliott, I'll say. I just got a hardcover of the first book, and
I
yeah,
literally handed it to you in a half
I
full
was
of
just
books.
say Andrew found it, and I'm like, oh, because I had the mass market paperbacks, which I hate mass market paperbacks, and so I was so excited to get a hardcover. Now I'm gonna have to track the other ones down, but that's my next one. I actually was planning on starting that this month, and I'm so behind this month when I get to it, but very soon, very soon. But anyway, fantasy was something I found really early on with Lloyd Alexander's Prydain, which I read so long ago that I didn't even remember anything that really happened. I remembered a couple of like small details because I reread it a few years ago as an adult and still enjoyed it, but just kind of captures the imagination going off in the fantastical worlds. I definitely for many years too, did the whole kind of escapism thing where you just kind of dive into books in a series and just go to another place. That was Wheel of Time was my comfort read for many years, reread a bunch of times, and it's just I really enjoy uh, finding new books, finding new authors, all the great ideas, and the building of worlds. And it's just one of those things that I get so much enjoyment about reading and then talking to other people. And like when you're excited about a book and somebody else is excited about a book, it's just great. So it's remained my like core hobby and thing that I just really really enjoy.
All right. And so, what is it about like backlist fantasy? Because when we both started our channel, well, when I started my channel, I should say, because you started before me, because you bullied me alongside of Megan to start my channel. Like literally, guys, if you're
And
watching
we
this, my channel would not exist without Nico's influence. And when we both started, or when I keep saying when we both started, you literally started a year before I did.
yeah, but that
Um,
year barely counted, so it's all good.
we were both very much backlist fantasy. And so, what appeals versus modern fantasy to backlist fantasy? Like, what's the appeal to backlist for you?
So that is a good question because while I definitely and I really enjoy a lot of modern fantasy and everything, but part of it is just there are so many great series out there, and so many of my favorites have been a bit older series. And like, there's a ton of really really great new stuff, and I've fallen in love with newer stuff too, as well. But I do tend to really, really click well with. See, I told you guys she'd pop in at some point. That's my wife.
We were talking
Um,
about you, Layla. I
we
promise.
were talking about you earlier. You missed it.
Good
Um,
things. Good things only.
definitely, yeah.
You're my biggest
Um,
fan, Layla. Just go with it. Don't contradict me in the comments.
uh, but yeah, so it's just there's a lot of stuff that I really loved, and part of it too is like my favorite's Wheel of Time, and after reading Wheel of Time a bunch of times, I started with when I was younger. I'm like, okay, I want to read like the other really big series that everybody talks about, So I read Malazan. I tried to read the Song of Ice and Fire. And like at the time, Lias de Locke was newer, and Gentleman Bastards was really popular, so I read those books, and like I was just this, and that was a newer one. But reading all those things, but then there were so many books, especially the more I looked around, the more I realized all these books and these books I'd had for years. And so when I started actually recording videos, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start. That made me actually get into a better frame of reading a lot more regularly, and keeping to it because I would always read, but I do it a little more casually for a few, several years actually. I'd more casually read here and there. Um, but there were so many things that I just like all these series I've heard about over the years that I want to get to. And there's something so great about going and a just going out finding a series, especially a series that not many people know about or not many people are talking about, and reading it and getting other people to check it out. And like, I imagine, too, it's also rewarding for like newer stuff that's just getting out as well. But I don't know. There is just something I really like about digging up those older series, and some of it's just I found so many older series that I really just mesh with my taste really well. Like that's where like Memory, Sorrow and Thorn, Crime of Stars,
I mean,
Kate
that's
Elliott
Ted
is
Williams.
a
Though.
bit
Ted
older.
Williams is a legend.
Yeah, and that was my first Tad Williams too, and he'd been an author I'd been aware of for so long and hadn't read. But like Thomas Covenant, I read that trilogy. That came out like the 70s, late 70s, early 80s probably. But I mean, like that was a really old one. And like I'm at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. By the end, I'm like, wow. And so there's so many things out there to. Oh God. Oh, I don't know if Andrew wants me to talk about that series. Oh my Lord. That that ended my regularly trying random books from half price books thing for a little bit. It made me start DNFing books. But it's just it's yeah, there's so many of the older series that I've just I really loved and love checking out and just finding out all these things. And it kind of informs too, especially because if you look at an older series or author, and you find you really love it, it's great because then you could find everybody who's like inspired by that and like more people to check out too. Or it's the same thing if you look at somebody modern and see who they were inspired by, you can find all these other great series just waiting out there.
Yeah.
What would you recommend as an older fantasy book that would go well with someone who likes action, fast-paced, modern, dark fantasy? Well, it just so happens that I recorded a video about a series today that comes out tomorrow that would probably fit that bill is the first thing that comes to mind. It's not crazy old, but I don't have the first book yet. I've been doing that. The Rune Lord series by
Oh,
David
Rune
Farland,
Lords. Okay.
which I just finished the fourth book, which is the end of the first arc. Um, Very fast paced. The first four books take place over like 2 weeks or less, which actually makes sense when you get to it. Very fast paced. It is. It's kind of middle of the road dark. It's not like super, grim dark or in your face with it like a lot of more modern stuff now, but there's definitely some dark stuff there. Very action packed, very fast paced. So that would probably be a good one. It's also if you like audio, which I can't remember, Tori, if you like audio or not, but Ray Porter narrates, and if you have an Audible membership, they're all included as well. So that's pretty perfect for that. But yeah, a lot of my favorites do happen to be slower paced. So that's why I'm like, I'm really glad I have an answer right off the bat for this. Because yeah, a lot of my other older favorites are not super fast paced. Cause like, Realm of the Elderlings is slow, whereas Light and Shadow is slow. Crown of Stars is slow. Thomas
Crown of Stars
Covenant
is
is
really
real
slow.
slow. Thomas Covenant took a book and a half to like really like get me hooked, but then I was so hooked. Yeah, Rune Lords. So this guy too, David Farland taught Brandon Sanderson creative writing. Fun fact. And I made the comparison in the video. It's really funny. I really did just film it shortly before this, and it is. I made the comparison. This is like it's darker than Sanderson. It has some elements that I feel like he might have taken inspiration from in Mistborn. And then there's a lot of stuff that I also see that it seems like Peter V. Brett's The Demon Cycle, which is much more grimdark, took from this as well. And so this is kind of in the middle with it. Barbara Hambley, I read Dragon's Bane, which I quite enjoyed, and I plan to continue those series. That was another one that was fairly fast moving. I would agree.
Rogue Six says Thomas Covenant was kind of rough.
Did
It's
you
funny. I don't
read
know
the
how
whole
many
thing?
people saw the
I
video.
agree.
We did a 1-star, one line. No,
So
it was like a
bad.
1-line guess the book challenge last time you were here, and I chose a bunch of really dark, messed up books that because it was all I could think of when like talking to Nico, and like halfway through the video, Nico's like, "You're making me look bad."
Oh, so bad. You picked like you picked like all of like the darkest things. Yeah, Thomas Covenant is very much not for everybody. I mean, like I said, it was published in the late 70s, the first trilogy, and the writing style reflects that. It's very like maybe like Tolkien-esque with uh, very rich prose. Like you're gonna find a lot of words you don't know, and I will never read again outside of that series, probably that are real words that are just words you wouldn't see. Um, and it's the character is such a terrible guy, which is kind of the point. And like it's hard to get into. And what he does very early on in the first book is also terrible. And it's just like, it seems like, why was that included? And then book 2, there was something else that I just like wish would not have been included because it was so uncomfortable. But the third book brought everything into focus as to why everything happened and just did such an amazing job. I didn't actually read that. That it made it so amazing. The third book, I still need to continue. It was super depressing fantasy. Okay, I will keep that in mind. I have, I think, the next couple at least, so I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, he is terrible, and like that's all the people who I know who love the trilogy. They love it for the world, and definitely not for the main character. But that's also what makes it so interesting because he was way ahead of the curve with the just absolute bastard of a character, um, and it's just, yeah,
Language,
his
sir. I'm just kidding.
struggles.
I don't care.
You can, you can say that on, like, they said that
I
on that
know.
70s show. It's network TV. But yeah. So Covenant it is a rough one. And I read the first book and it took me forever to get to book 2. And it took me forever to get to book 3. And then book 3 I couldn't put down. It was just, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna cycle back.
You'll have to check it out, John.
I'm gonna cycle back to. I think John would love Thomas Covenant just because it's so messed up. But basically, when I started my channel, I'm cycling back 10 minutes. I didn't know that fantasy had this renaissance. So I was reading backlist fantasy because I was unaware of the self-pub movement. I didn't really think fantasy was popular or that people were chugging out so many fantasy books in the 2010s. And so I was just reading stuff from the 90s and the early 2000s because that's what I knew. Other than Dresden, I didn't know of anything else new. So when I started my channel, I was only reading the old stuff, mainly because I didn't know all of this crap existed. I don't want to say crap. All of this stuff existed. There we go. But yeah. So I was just ignorant. And then once I was like, oh, I've got some catching up to do. That's why I read so fast, because I feel like I'm perpetually behind. I feel like, oh no, I've missed out on 20 years of new writing. I need to read it all in the next 5 years, which is silly, but that's what my brain does.
Well, and yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me too, is like there's all of these new things that I want to get to. And then I think back like, oh my gosh, but there's such a backlog of stuff I also want to get to. And so it's hard, and that's why I switch off. And for like bigger series, I usually am focusing on one at a time. For like bigger, older series, like did Realm of the Elderlings, read mostly a book a month for a year. And like right now I'm doing Wars of Light and Shadow, which I haven't been sticking to a schedule. But I know that one's going to take me a bit as well. But yeah, it's hard to kind of um, it's hard to balance all of that, and yet it's like I'm so glad I'm reading new stuff in self-pub because, like, for example, shout out Andrew D. Meredith, who's one of my favorite authors, who's very new and
fantastic.
self-publishing, and just like the guy meshes with my taste more than I thought was possible. Like I feel like I learned more about my taste from reading his books because I read his books and like this is my taste exactly.
Didn't I
And
shove
so
that down your throat? I
it's
told
so
you
good.
had to read it.
You highly recommended it. I picked it up and he was offering up stuff in our server like because I think it was price first as an ebook, and you were raving about it, so I checked it out. And he was offering an audio of Deathless Beast, and like I got into Deathless Beast so fast that he sent it. It was like on Authors Direct or something or some other app, and I hated the app. So it was free through it because it was a review, but I hated the app, so I went and used a credit on Audible and just bought the audiobook. And then immediately after finishing it, I went out and I bought the physical books. I'm like, yep, okay, he's getting my money for that. So
I just pre-ordered Fourscore today through Silverstone Books.
I still need to order. I've read it. I just haven't. I haven't gotten a physical copy yet.
So okay, why did I give Shadowfane 4 stars instead of 5? in a non-spoiler nutshell, there is a mechanic used where there is a new villain introduced like halfway through the end of the book that just kind of felt shooed in. And so like I'm like, okay, like this wasn't actually the villain. This is the real concern. These guys are just schmucks. And it just felt like the buildup kind of pulled a slight bait and switch. Like the threat and undertones are kind of there, but even like the bad guys didn't know about this bad guy, and so it just kind of felt a little eh. Other than that, though, I really enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed it. It didn't quite live up to what I thought the series was building up to.
That was where it was so hard for me to rate those individual books. So I just rated the bind up as a whole as a cop out. So I didn't have to. So I think I ended up giving the bind up itself, the trilogy itself, 5.
Yeah,
but
I would definitely give the trilogy 5 stars.
So guys, I read Lightbringer. I actually liked Lightbringer. It's over here. See, look at it. It's right there.
Well, I mean, listen, his channel is called Hot Take Discussions.
I mean, that's not even a hot take. That's pretty common.
I know.
It was a bold ending, and my problem, funnily enough, with it is I felt like it went a little too happy, and I didn't think it fit. Is how I can say that in the vaguest way possible. And if you've read it, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. I didn't have problems with the thing that most people have a problem with at all. I thought it was really interesting and different. It's more so I thought there were some things that seemed a little too happy at the end, and it just didn't fully fit the tone. But it's still a really good series, I think. I think it gets a lot of flack, and I get why. But the characters, the magic system were top notch, and I thoroughly enjoyed the series.
For me, I don't think Brent Meeks is gonna be for me. I hear so many mixed things on Lightbringer and on Night Angel. I think that's what it's called, the other bind up.
I still need to read Night Angel, yeah.
Yeah, so I hear mixed things on Night Angel. I hear like if you like this one, you're not gonna like this one, or if you like this one, you're not gonna like that one. But also, like when I joined BookTube, I loved the first one. What was it? The Blinding Knife? No, that's
the Black Prism's the first one.
No, that's the Black Prism. So I read Black Prism, and I loved it. I gave that book 5 stars. And then all of a sudden I started hearing, I think this is when Blood Mirror was coming out, and everybody started trashing Blood Mirror. And by the time I started book 2, I think the 5th book had just dropped, and it was so mixed. I was just like, I'm not going to invest thousands of pages in something that's going to be so incredibly mixed. And so I just kind of walked away. I was like, you know what? That was a really good experience. I walked away with giving that first book 5 stars. It's not a complete story, but at the same time, I still have great memories of that story. I'm just going to walk away while the going's good.
Weirdly enough, I picked up the Black Prism because of Daniel Green's negative review. He gave it a particularly
have pretty different taste to Daniel.
And I'm like, even though I hadn't read the book, I'm like, those criticisms seem weird, so I checked it out, and I should be better at reading. Red Queen's War. Yeah, I also loved Red Queen's War. That's the fan.
I DNF'd Red Queen's War, but I did finish Broken Empire.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I picked it up for that. I really liked it, and then I like the book 4 does get a little wild. I feel like he went a little crazy with all of the twists and stuff he was trying to do. It gets a little hard to follow. And then book 5 does some controversial stuff too, which I get, but I think that he's said before too, he likes to do the thing you're not expecting. And so that's something he does. It's always going to be, I feel like he knew it was going to be controversial, especially after, the things in book 4, but I still really enjoyed it. It's definitely something I would reread at some point as well. I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people kind of fell off, but I still enjoyed it. He was one too, Brent Weeks. I always read his like author notes because they were always entertaining. And at the end of The Burning White, the last book, if you read the author note, which I did for every single book, it's always full of jokes and all kinds of stuff in there. And then at the end, there's actually like a, like secret, like they used to do on CDs, like a secret bonus track. There's a secret bonus chapter at the end, actually, which I thought is really cool. And so that was fun too. Red Queen's War makes me not. Why do you guys hate Red Queen's War? Come on. I really liked Red Queen's War. It was I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I really liked that and Broken Empire. And I read I've read Red's Sister so far in Book of the Ancestor, and I thought it was okay. And that's everyone's favorite, so maybe I'm just weird. Well, yeah, but he's supposed to suck. That's kind of the point. I think that's what was so funny is you're reading Jalen after, I always say Jorg, but everybody says Jorg, so Jorg. And then you have like the polar opposite character, and I don't know. I thought it was funny. It worked for me.
Nico, do you want to play a game?
Oh God, what are we playing?
You want to do a little this or that? I'm stealing this from Tori too.
What are you doing to me? All right.
Just in random order, we got this or that: Lycanius or Deathless Beast.
Oh, that's Deathless Beast, easy. Okay. Although I really did enjoy Lycanius. Also a series I think it's a little too much flack, although I get why.
All right. Oh, this isn't fair.
Oh, come on. Obviously, I have to take Eye of the World. I really did like Obsidian Bat so much.
All right. We've got Way of Kings. And, we're going to shuffle this up. We're going to make it difficult.
Ooh. I am so glad that you picked book 1 in Realm of the Elderlings, because that easily gets me Way of Kings, which is my favorite Stormlight book, because I was not 100% sold until book 2. If you would have picked that or one of the Tawny Man ones, that would have been much harder.
Later!
Anitha, you better still be here. We have Nimue.
Yeah, Anitha. Nitha.
I've been so bad about reading them. I'm not sure if she's still here, but maybe she'll see it on replay. Oh, I see that. Oh, she's listening.
Yes, I am stealing your party games, Tori. We got Malice and we've got Guards.
Malice or Guards. That's another one where for me, I was not sold on Faithful in the Fall of Malice, so I'll go Guards. Even though I'm actually a little lower on Guards than most people. So I felt like it was a lot longer than it needed to be.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to do this one then.
That's just rude. When we did this before, I specifically didn't pick Eye of the World because I feel like it's just it's kind of cheating. But it's the first book of my favorite series and the first book of what could be a favorite series in the future. And like, I mean, I love both. I've reread both so many times, but I gotta go Eye of the World.
Is Eye of the World just gonna take it all?
Probably. I was rude.
What if I do this? Oh wait, hold on.
Oh,
I held up the wrong one. There we go.
I mean, neither one of those was really fair. They're so different. Oh my gosh. I can't even make a comparison between the two. I've been trying to like do 1-to-1 comparisons for the most part, but I that's like an impossible choice. You know, fine. I'll go Deathless Beast just so you can't torture me with Eye of the World anymore. How about that?
Okay, there we go. And then
it's easily Deathless Beast.
Deathless Beast takes it. Okay.
Easily.
You heard it here, guys. Andrew D. Meredith is a gem and beat out all those legends fair and square. No prompting whatsoever. This wasn't fixed.
Meredith is I gotta call him Andrew because he finds it weird when people call him Meredith, which I think is hilarious.
It's funny. Tori, the workaround for Tori is she calls me Wizard.
I know. Yeah, but yeah. Nah, seriously, just it became a new one of my favorites author wise so quickly. I just really enjoy his books. My wife. Yeah,
Layla, can I have some tea?
I'm trying to pay more attention to the comments because I've apparently missed some. And so I was scrolling back, and Anita mentioned on Sunday we have a chat with Andrew D. Meredith too, so I'll note that. But sure, I'll take some tea. Why not?
I want some
Deathless Beast
tea.
does have audio, which is narrated by the author, and it's really good.
And he does a fantastic job. He actually is all, I believe, is he the one narrating Troy's book as well?
Is he?
I think so. I think he. Where did I put all these books? There we go. No, wait. Troy, where's your book? There it is. I think he narrated Seekers.
Okay. I have the physical copy of that I think I got from you, but now I'm gonna probably do audio just because I'm down for some more Andrew D. Meredith audio.
Yeah, no, I love Andrew's voice. And it's in fact like I'm going to use the audio of Seekers for when book 2 comes out because I'm so excited for book 2 to drop. Yeah. It's funny, I got asked, so I've released 2 shorts now of me getting tongue-tied. And they've both done incredibly well. People are like, "Are you forcing that?" I'm like, "No, I literally just trip over my tongue constantly."
Well, I feel like the more you think about it, the worse it's going to be too. Like we did a video once. It was us and Walker, who I don't think he's not active on YouTube anymore. I think still has the channel, but Walker writes 7, and he's an author too. And we did this whole long video, and it was so much fun. But they were getting tongue-tied
nowhere, but it was fun.
Yeah, and I was doing better, and so I made a joke. I'm like, it's okay, guys. I'm used to, like, I used to present all the time at work, so I'm naturally I'm not going to make mistakes. Just kind of joking around, and then I made like so many mistakes immediately.
Yeah, you tripped over your tongue all the time. The bloopers section of that video was my favorite.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Who streamed that video? Was it Walker who did the streaming on that one?
I think so. Yeah.
We're just gonna have to like steal the raw video from him and just upload it to our channels and make it do something. I don't know. Maybe he'll be okay with it. I have DNF'd Paternus.
That is Dirk Ashton?
It's Dirk Ashton, yeah.
I haven't heard of that from you.
So I DNF'd the first one pretty early on. And then I came back about a year later and I finished the first book. And I pretty much liked the first book. I was zoning out on book 2. But I was also doing it on audio. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But then again, don't take that any wrong way. I DNF everything.
I see. Andrew does DNF a lot of books. And sometimes he goes back too. I've seen Andrew DNF over the tiniest thing and then go back and love the book. It happens sometimes too. So sometimes you're trying to move for something.
I'm willing. Well, and that's something I've discovered lately is I'm a much stronger mood reader than I've ever been in my life. And I think that's because I have so much to choose from that I get a little overwhelmed. And so I feel like I constantly have to reach for that next book. And I need to like get through some of these books, especially my review copies. Like I've got over 25 review copies right now.
Oof.
And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not as bad as Patrick or anything like that, but I've got a lot of review copies. Like for some people, that's a whole year's worth of reading just in review copies.
Yeah, that's where like I got a bunch last year, and I'm still trying to get through some that I got last year, among with some others. But that's where like I've started to get to the point where I'm like I cannot keep accepting, and I always feel bad because I've told almost nobody no. Even like last year, like early on, I had people reach out to me about some stuff that I'm like, I don't know why you're reaching out to me. That doesn't at all sound like something I would normally read, but sure. And I actually haven't gotten anything that I like hated at all. Some things I like more than others, but been pretty good. But I'm just like, I have so many review copies to get to, and I have more I've gotten recently, and then I have more coming, and I'm just like, I need to stop.
I think Patrick's got like 200 review copies or something like that. It's ridiculous.
I feel like he's involved in like everything self-pub, and that's awesome, but man, that must be hard to maintain.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, hey, Kuda, he just hit 25K, so I mean, it's working for him. Patrick's also just an awesome guy, though.
He seems really nice, but we have very different taste in books from his videos that I've seen.
But why do you use the term very?
I've specifically seen videos where he loved series I hated and didn't like series that I loved. So it's pretty different. Pretty different.
You just gotta like build
Poorly.
up this like emotional callus, and then you just accept the fact that you're gonna feel bad until you're caught up. That's pretty much what it is. Like I've got tons of review copies of people, but like some of them were like, yeah, when you get to it, and I'm like, okay, great, that really helps because
Yeah.
if you're expecting like me to get to it in a timely manner, it's not going to happen. Like especially because I am leaning so much into that mood read. Like if I like recently, I think you were in town for this. It was No Heart for a Thief. I started No Heart for a Thief one night when you'd already gone home, and I was clashing so hard with the narrative structure that like I was getting mad, and I think it was just a mood reading issue. Um, and so it's just one that I need to like. I just ended up swapping arcs. I think I swapped in Tori's Phased. I think that's what got swapped in, which I ended up working phenomenally well because Phased is fantastic.
I see. I loved
That's
No
next
Heart for a
Friday's book
Thief,
review, I think.
but I was worried about you because of the dual narrative structure with like the flashbacks, and I know that clashes with you really hard sometimes, and so I was kind of
It's
worried
got to
about
be
you.
done well. It's something that I feel if you don't execute it super well, I'm gonna get like for we were talking about like Red Queen's War and like Broken Empire. It uses that kind of structure. And so like in Broken Empire, you know Jorik's gonna get messed up, but because the book starts in a future timeline, you already know he's fine. Like
I mean,
it,
hey, I really liked both of those. Like I really liked Gentleman Bastards, which does the same thing. So like I think it's just one of those things that I think it works fine for me, but it's taste thing is totally fair. So
yes,
makes sense.
we made Anitha's bit pile even bigger. Layla, where's mine?
As I say, you could try to talk. I don't know if it'll pick you up though.
You look so sad. Did it freeze?
No, he's just making that face.
If you come here, I will make you a cup of tea.
I'll be there next March. Yeah,
I will
and
also
now
make Anita a
Anitha,
cup
all
of
the
tea
way in
anytime she wants,
Toronto,
'cause she seems
wants to
like
know
a
where
sweet
hers
soul, and I love
is.
her.
To say, I think it'll definitely be cold by the time it gets to Canada, but
Oh, she's in Canada?
Yeah, she's in Toronto, I believe.
That's a quick jaunt over the border.
Yeah, just a hop, skip, and a jump.
it's a lot closer to us
you.
than pretty much any other country. So
I also
Anitha,
blame
you know
Anita
what?
for everything.
I'm fine
fair.
with accepting the blame because a lot of people already blame me for really bad TBRs. Like,
It's true. 100%. But I was gonna say, well, speaking with the review copy thing though too, I'm always super upfront with people, and most authors have been cool with it. Um, and like the last few things I've accepted, I'm like, it's gonna be at least a couple of months, and I cannot really guarantee when I'll get to it because I have my name. And I've had people just be like, hey, I'll send it to you whenever you want to get to it. Totally fine. I've had a couple of people send books, just they sent and they hadn't even like reached out to me too, and just like, hey, here are these if you want to read them, which is also fine. Um, it's just it might take me longer to get to those in some cases, but there's actually one of
Layla's
those I got
amazing.
Mike's books, which it sounds like Anita's about to get to, and that was I need to continue that series too. I read the first one, I liked it quite a lot. I need
I
to keep going.
really enjoyed. I need to get. Oh, I've got them right here. So I really enjoyed becoming a druid. Like I really loved this book. And then To Speak with Elders is also incredibly good. Sins and Sorrows, it's marketed as like 1.5, but I think it takes place before the start of book 1. So it might I think there's like a time jump or something going on there.
I'd say
Because
I'm
when it
reading that
starts,
after book 2. I think it's my
say
plan.
what?
I think I'm reading that after book 2 is my plan.
I would recommend reading it before book 2.
For
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend you do that.
all right. I say I have the.
Yep.
Is yeah, Becoming a Druid was one of those exactly what I needed because it feels very, very 80s fantasy in a great way. And it was just I needed a break for something new, and that was one of the books that just was like exactly. It was such a wonderful change of pace. You don't get a lot of druids. I was super pumped reading that book. I had a lot of fun with it. I know it was between 1 and 2. I thought for some reason I had it in my mind I was going to read it after 2, but I don't know. I'll read it.
Oh my goodness, 1,600 books. Whew. That is
The
a
radar.
lot of books.
That is a lot.
Is that multiple genres? Is that just fantasy? Is that historical fiction and sci-fi? Please let me know. Which, Nico, have you ventured into historical fiction yet?
Not
Count of Monte Cristo doesn't count.
really. Besides Count, I probably should because I love Count of Monte Cristo. Love it so much, and it's one of those things that I haven't done a ton of historical fiction. I've done a little bit here and there, but it's probably something I'll do. Which actually, speaking of that, I think I just remembered the question from earlier that I forgot to answer because I think somebody asked about Gemmel.
Somebody asked about Gemmel and I didn't see it.
I think so. Also, Jane said we can't be friends, and I'm not sure what I said at that time at 8:50.
You were probably talking some sort of trash about like Wheel of Time or something.
That might have been. That was when the cat came. I don't remember what I was talking.
Jane, let Nico know why you hate him now.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Christopher G. Birding.
Welcome. Oh, what's your favorite Gemmel book so far? I found it.
Fictional Escapist.
I found it was at 8:51 asking favorite Gemmel so far. That's a really hard question.
Hold on. Where is it?
Oh,
wait, you said 8:51. Mine's 9:51.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm an hour behind.
Let's see. Jalen. There we go. It was. Yeah. What's your favorite Gemmel book?
Because my brain went historical fiction. You really liking Gemmel's historical fiction, and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't there something about Gemmel earlier? But from Janai, Quest for Lost Heroes has remained one of my absolute favorites because it was just such a great book. But I've really, really loved most of them. And like the end, especially of Winter Warriors, some of the things that happened in that book were amazing. I also loved Dark Moon, which was totally different, and was also really great.
Really good.
It was not at all what I was expecting. But yeah, I still need to read the rest of Janai and like basically everything he's ever written. So
probably a tie for these two for me.
I need to read Midnight Fog, but I haven't read because I haven't read Brigante. I haven't read his Troy trilogy. It's so many things he has I need to read.
I've read more Gemmel than you, trust me. I'm about halfway through his bibliography by now.
Oh, so Jane, I love Realm of the Yellowling's first 9, and I love Faithful and the Fallen. I just wasn't huge on the first books. It was Assassin's Apprentice I liked, but I'm like it started kind of weird, and then it took me a while to get used to his writing style. And I absolutely fell in love with Royal Assassin and Assassin's Apprentice, and then I really enjoyed Life Ships too. Tawny Man just blew me away, and Faithful and the Fallen I got into it in book 2, and then I loved book 3 and 4. So they're both on my top 10 series of all time. So I'm not bashing them. I was just saying I didn't like the first books as much. I grew into them. So because he picked first books, he gave me an out. So it was a choice of guard. I was gonna say,
I puckered up.
I was gonna say, and Guards is a great book, but like halfway through, it kind of stops for a little bit, and then it just keeps going, and it's really weird. And nobody ever talks about it, but it's really weird. It kind of like it feels like it's leading up to the ending, and then it just like stops, pauses, and then just continues. But like I still really enjoy it. I'm not sure
what section you're talking about.
It's nearly middle. I don't know. Anyway, Men at Arms, the next Guards book I thought was even better than Guards though, and it built off.
Oh, the first 3 constantly get better. Then Jingo is a little bit eh. The Fifth Elephant is an acquired taste. Like you got to be into like Frankenstein and stuff like that.
That's
And
always
then
with Discworld, yeah, it depends what the parody is. I just had to pick a favorite Discworld book, which is impossible, for a video I submitted a clip for. And
Nightwatch.
I ended up going with one I figured less people would pick. And so I did, I shouldn't spoil it. I don't think the video's out yet. But I did
I know
Weird
exactly
Sisters.
the video you're talking about because I also submitted a clip for it.
I figured you did. I don't think it's out yet, or I might have missed it because I'm always behind. But yeah, I picked that because I love Weird Sisters so much. I loved Equal Rights. I love Weird Sisters. You know, the first 2 Guards books were great. Small Gods were great. It was like impossible to pick. So I'm like, I don't know if anybody else is going to pick that one, and I absolutely love that book, so I went with it.
What's the state of your Discord collection? Do you have them all now?
No, but I have nearly all of them, I think. Because I started the fancy.
I've got the
ones.
majority of my hardcovers.
You were willing to sell them to me. I was willing to buy. Yeah, I got the Death and Witches collection up there, and I used to have the rest of the Discworld up there, but I have a bunch. My office is really messy, so I'm not going to pan the camera, but I have a bunch of just miscellaneous and mostly not good condition mass market paperbacks of most of the rest of the series. And behind the TARDIS, there are a few other ones. So I have most of the books in the series. I'm still missing some, but that was just over the last few years. I slowly, anytime I came across one I was missing, I'd grab it and slowly collect them.
I'm thinking the next sub-series I'm going to try is making money, but I don't know when I'm going to do it. And I don't know if I want to invest in the like library editions, because if I end up not liking them, then I have to
sell
then
them
sell
to
them
me.
to you.
Yeah, so it's a win-win for me at least.
Yeah, I mean, you win either way.
That's why I joked for so long, and I didn't think you were actually going to do it, but I joked for so long that I almost was hoping that he would not like the Greenbone saga so that I could take his hardcovers from him. And then he ended up just like deciding
for your birthday.
I was going to say, he ends up giving to me anyway and just deciding he'll do a different format because he needed to clear space. And so I'm like, that still works. But
I am reaching unhaul status of where like I've got to start making choices of like, because like I got a special edition of a Goldsboro book today, and immediately like I was just like, this isn't something I'm gonna read. It's not going on my shelf. I'm not even gonna haul it. I'm just gonna flip it. Like, and I never do that. But like that's when I know I'm starting to reach. Okay, I got to be a little bit more choice with what I make shelf space for.
Yeah.
And like recently when Ben Galley stopped working for me, I decided, hey, if this is the 4th book and it's not going well for me, I'm not just going to keep all these books on the shelf. I will find somebody who's going to enjoy those stories.
Yeah. Oh, we have some.
Sorry.
That actually happens too much.
Hitchhikers is I wouldn't say hated it, but I've read the first 3 Hitchhikers books, and I've been fair to middling on all of them.
I would say
if you don't know, again, a lot like Discworld, if you don't know the parody that they're trying to go for, it just falls flat.
I would say Adams is a bit zanier than Pratchett.
Yeah.
To be honest. And he has some great lines, but yeah, going through some of those books, like they're fun, but I feel like I have to be in the mood for them. I run into that with Discworld too, because Discworld is more specific. A lot of it's like a genre parody or satire. Not all of it is specifically, but so it always depends. Because like Andrew didn't really like soul music because he's not super into like classic rock and roll. I loved soul music because it worked for me. So it just kind of depends.
If you want something that feels like Pratchett and Adams, but don't need any references for, Debunked by Dito Abbott is fun, it's adventurous, and it's zany. Just saying. I'm trying to sell as many copies of this as I possibly can because I want people to read this. It's so much fun. Mad
also
Camel,
comes in like
Mad
the coolest
Scientist.
package ever.
All right, Camel Mad Scientist. There we go. It's got a Camel Mad Scientist. That's all I should have to tell you.
If you get it on his
Yo
website,
is
you can get it
fantastic.
signed in a map with like it's wrapped like it's being shipped from, you know, an old timey like travel thing with like stamps and wax sealed, like super, super cool. One of the coolest books I've ever gotten in the mail after ordering. It just guy goes all out.
Yeah, no, I need the next book. I want the next book. I don't know when it's coming out. But
That's another one I need to read. It's up there.
Oh,
It's on the TBR shelf.
If nothing is working for you and you just need something to decompress with, like just reach for it, because it's like those early 2000s adventure movies like The Mummy and Journey to the Center of the Earth, but like fun and zany, like, you know, Adams and Pratchett. So it's this great package that is just incredibly digestible and a lot of fun.
I feel like between the last two things you said about it, you would have sold me on it even if I didn't already own it. So I'm glad
I
I
actually
own it,
did tell you on it. That's why you bought it.
I mean, that is 100% going to happen. The first time you were talking about it, I'm like, I'm going to go buy this book. This sounds great. And I did.
Yeah.
So this is why we blame you for
a lot of
everything,
fun.
though, because you're always making all of us buy books.
Well, I know the one thing I can't make you buy, and that's Stephen King.
That's true.
Even though you have Stephen King books.
I technically have one. My wife has some.
No, you technically have 3 because it's a bind-up of 3 books. Don't cheat.
The Barnes & Noble one?
Yeah. Isn't that
bought
Carrie,
that.
Salem's Lot, and The Shining?
Something like that. I bought that for Layla. It just looks cool, so it's with the fancy books on my shelf.
So you bought it for Layla and stole the book from your wife. How does that feel?
It's
Tell
not
the
even
internet
in
how that
here.
makes you feel.
It's out in another room with the fancy books, and she keeps books on that shelf too. I'll also note that that's the nicer IKEA shelf where I get the Target shelves in my office. So.
Hey, you got to treat your wife. Got to treat her right. So she gets the nice ones.
John, you already got a hot take I agree with. So.
What up, Chris? I hit a Stephen King burnout in November, but that's because I read 5 Stephen King books in a month. And then today I was like, I tried to start Malazan House of Chains, and my brain went, no, you don't want fantasy right now. And so I was just like, okay, what do you want, brain? Brain said, you've been wanting to read Revival for 5 months. How about try that one? And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that's how my entire internal discourse went, was, hey, you want to read some Stephen King? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'd love to read some Stephen King. I think from any single author, I own the most books from Stephen King, because I have literally got a shelf and a half of King hardcovers. And let's see, so I've got 9. Well, no, David Gemmell might beat him out, because I've got a ton of Gemmell. I've got 1, 2, so I've got 5 there. I've got all 11, so that's 16, 21. I've got 21 Gemmell there, and then up here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got another 5. So I've got 20. I've got 26 Gemmell, and one of those is a bind-up of 2. So technically, I've got 27 Gemmell.
It's got to be Pratchett for me, because I have most of Discworld. But yeah, I have no hate.
I had a lot of Pratchett, and then I just sold it to you.
And it's fine.
But I mean, I've probably got close to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Nope, I got more King. I've got 30 King books.
Jeez.
So it's a struggle for me to go to Half Price Books and find a Stephen King book that I need.
Well, they're so easy to get. I mean, you find a lot of them, so that also makes it easier. He's written so many books.
Yeah, he's written, like, I think if you include like all the novella collections, the short story collections, The stuff written under the Pokemon name. It's like close to like 60 to 80 books or something like that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. I don't have a lot of Feist. I've only got 4 Feist books right now. No, that's not true. I've got 6 Feist books right now. I've got the trilogy co-written with Janie Wirtz, the Empire trilogy, and I've got Rift War, which I've contemplated upgrading my Rift War collection to the Eastern Press ones, but I've got to find affordable copies because what they want for those makes me ill.
That's why I like my hardcover bind up of Magician, and I'd like to get others, but I just was going with the UKs because it's so hard to find good copies.
Let's see. Eric's got around 20 Feist. I might have, and for some reason I never returned any of them from the library. Does that mean you're banned from your like public library? Because I wouldn't want to. I'd go open a library card under an assumed identity. It's not worth it. Oh, geez. I read only one king so far. Firestarter. Anita, I've heard Firestarter's mid, to use some Allen language. I don't know. Nico's like, why are we talking about king? I don't care.
Oh, I mean, it's totally fine. Like I said, I really have no hate for the guy. It's not. I don't have a lot of interest in reading him. I'm familiar enough with enough of his work. It's just not for me, and it's fine. I mean, I know a lot of people love him, and I'm generally cool with disagreements because most of my favorite series also have a lot of people that don't care for them. So like, it's all good.
Oh, Anitha, Needful Things. Needful Things is my favorite King book. I love that book so much. I want to get the $250 special edition that PS put out, but it's $250. If I could have a special edition of a King book, it would be Needful Things. I love Needful Things. Although I'm also really loving Revival, so if I can get the special edition of that one too, it'd be pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, what I wanted to ask you, because we're approaching maybe 15-20 minutes left. How are you excited for the readathon?
I am excited. It's gonna be. I hadn't done a readathon before, and I agreed to join Jake the Book Strummer's readathon as a team captain for Team ACDC, which is gonna win, of course. And then I got suckered into joining a readathon over on Keymark, the TBR Busters, as well. So now, never done a readathon before. Now I'm doing 2 readathons in the same month. I'm planning to use the same books though. That helps. But yeah,
Golden Bards.
I am. So I'm the.
Did you end up on Tori?
No, so Tori is the one who recruited me and told me I should join her team. And so when I signed up, it said, "What team do you want to be on?" And I said, "Tori." And it's like, "What's your second and third choice?" And I'm like, "No." And I didn't put anything in. And so I still didn't end up on Tori's team because I took too long to sign up, I think. So I'm with Jord, and I'm good with Jord. And I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun.
Dude. He just started his channel middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm the TBR Spelunkers. That's the team that I'm on for Keymark. But yeah, no. So I mean, it seems like it's a really good group. And I saw like the list of team captains, and I'm like, I know these people. I'd be fine with anybody, but like Tori recruited me, so I felt like I should try to be on her team. I
put Tori, Kay, Jord, and then Derry. Because I'd have been fine with on anybody's team, but
literally anybody. That's why I'm like, I can't choose between the rest of these people, and because they're all great people. And so I'm like, Tori recruited me. I'm just gonna put her, and I ended up on Jord's team, which is 100% fine. So I told Tori, and I'm like, I thought it was funny. I'm like, her team must have filled up because they're trying to keep them even. So
Chris, Nico, and I also aren't the biggest Abercrombie fans. I still have my Abercrombie books. Nico unhauled them.
I have the first 2 Age of Madness and Trap End still.
I did try and sell my Age of Madness. Nobody wanted them. I respect what Abercrombie does, but like you've got to be in the mood for a story like that. And if it doesn't land with you, then it's not going to land with you hardcore. So like I love Red Country, and then like Heroes is pretty good, and I've got a critique on my channel for Best Served Cold, and then I have a very well-known opinion of The Last Argument of Kings. But I like The Blade itself and Before They Are Hanged.
I liked The Blade itself. I thought Before They Were Hanged was really good. I thought it improved. I went like 3 stars, 4 stars, and then Last Argument of Kings was like a 2 for me. Just didn't appreciate it, and I get the whole. I get that part of that's the idea that it's not supposed to be a satisfying ending, but like, congrats, you succeeded. It wasn't.
That's why I
satisfying.
read, though. I
didn't care
want
for
that
it,
catharsis at the end of my experience. Otherwise, what did I spend hours and hundreds of pages doing?
It wasn't for me. But like, I've read First Law and the standalones. I didn't really like Best Served Cold. The Heroes is my favorite. I hate one particular thing he does at the end, especially because it's just Abercrombie being Abercrombie. But really, really, really enjoyed the book. I think it's some of his best work that he's done. Red Country I also quite enjoyed, but it also
the reason Red Country is probably my favorite is I like fantasy westerns. Like this book's amazing, and it is every fantasy western I've read.
I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at that. I just saw John's comment that Abercrombie and Martin are his 2 favorite authors' inspirations, and now I'm so afraid to try his books. So, because I'm not a fan of either. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I was scrolling back and I just saw that.
Oh yeah,
so.
I mean, More Than a Gunslinger by J.R. Carroll. I love that one. I love No Land for Heroes. I'm currently reading the sequel on ARC. I've actually got it right here. No Port in a Storm.
I am really curious to try more like of the fantasy western Gaslamp fantasy stuff you've been trying. It sounds really cool. It's just not something I've done, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it.
You've got H.L. Tinsley's, right? We Men of Ash and Shadow?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Is that it? I've got the sequel locked and loaded, ready to go. I just haven't read it yet.
Is that a western?
It's a gas lamp.
Oh, the gas lamp. Okay.
You said gas lamp as well, so I included it. But yeah, no, gas lamp and fantasy western like caught me completely off guard because I first read Sarah Shorn's one. What is that one called? I'm sure somebody in the I've read so many darn books. Something Wildfires.
Of Honey and Wildfires for the third.
Yeah, Of Honey and Wildfires. Of Honey and Wildfires blew my socks off. I didn't quite like the novella that came after it, but that Of Honey and Wildfires was really, really good. Not flawless, but really good. And then it just piqued my curiosity. Another one that I've got to read is Gold Glamour's Ghost, and I haven't gotten to this one yet. I don't know when I'm going to get to this one yet, but I've just got fantasy westerns coming out of my ears, and it makes me happy.
It is definitely something I'll give a shot to. Yeah.
Well, Nico, you want to tell people what you think of The Gunslinger?
Okay, so to be fair, even people who love the series, I've heard have DNF'd that multiple times, but that was my fastest DNF ever. Everything about it screamed, no, don't read this to me. It's like I said, it's King's style. Especially that one starts off so oddball. I tried. I'm just like,
okay, you got to admit, it's one of the best first lines of a book.
The very first line is fine. It's everything that comes after that.
Everything else that comes after that. You're rude for that.
I'm not trying. Like, I didn't even want to bring it up again. You asked me, but that's why, like I said, like, I'm not trying to hate on Stephen King. I mean, he's one of the most well-known and successful authors of all time. It's just he's just not for me. Like, his style works so well for a lot of people, it just doesn't for me. And that's one of my hot takes. But I just but see, and I heard that, like, I was complaining about it, and I had like 5 people be like, yeah, I DNF'd it 3 times. Now it's one of my favorite series, though. And it's just like I might try and go back at some point because I always wanted to at least try his fantasy series. I do have I have Fairy Tale though, because Somebody got it for me as a gift, somebody in real life, because they know I read, but they didn't really know fully what I read. And it was so funny because they were trying really hard to get like a nice, thoughtful gift, having no idea, of course, that I don't like King. And so like I'm gonna read it. But the funny thing is, from what my understanding is, most King fans don't care for it. So I feel like it'd be really funny if I loved it. Just because it's not his standard, apparently, like what he normally puts out. So it'll be interesting.
I've done a thing.
Bye, Jane.
Bye,
My double
Jane.
teammate.
I was trying to say bye, Jane, and type, and then this new laptop has a super extra wide like touchpad, and so every time I type, like my hand hits the touchpad, and then it just makes everything go screwy. So like usually I've got like 30 or 40 like typos if I'm like writing a paragraph on this thing, or like it just jumps all over the place. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
So John, with the DNF and Malazan, I mentioned earlier I slowed down for several years in my reading. Malazan was a big reason for that. I read that whole series over a year period. I didn't read anything else. It just took me a year to get myself to finish that series. And it was usually like the first half of every book I would hate. I wouldn't want to read it. And then I'd be really hooked by the second half. It's like I want to reread it at some point because I feel like I'll appreciate it so much more. Like looking back in retrospect, I can really appreciate a lot of the things it did. So much has really stuck with me. These just amazing scenes and plot lines. You know, like book 2 is one of my favorite plot lines of all time ever to this day. And there are so many other just amazing plot lines, but I had the roughest time reading that series and forcing myself through it at many points. So I that's whenever people are like, yeah, I don't care for Malazan, I'm like, I get it. Like I finished the series and I recognize it as being phenomenal, but I've never had such a hard time reading a series as that one. So
I am hoping that takes.
Oh, we're throwing some shade.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to make it through at least House of Chains this time through. I got about halfway through chapter 1, and I was just kind of like, okay, like we're being introduced to I like the narrative structure because it's focusing only on Karza. But I'm just like, okay, like we'll see. But I think today my brain just wasn't in the mood for fantasy, so I started Stephen King.
Even if you're in the mood for fantasy, Malazan can be a tall order sometimes. But like, I like that was one of the few books that I actually didn't like hate from the outset. Which I know it sounds so weird to say that, considering I did overall like the series, and I like I said, but because I liked Karsa, but Midnight Tides is what got me, because Midnight Tides takes place on the third continent we've been to in Malazan, with entirely new characters. And it actually happens like before book 1. Like it's a new timeline, new continent, new characters. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? And like the end of some, like the next book spends a lot of time there, and like new, better, like cool stuff gets introduced. But I'm just like, I don't care. I want to find out what's happening elsewhere, and you're doing this to me. And so that's where, yeah, it's it's one of those things.
40K. I am starting to get the itch to check out Warhammer 40K. I don't know where to start. All the books are massive. I don't know anything about the lore. I've got no frame of reference, and I'm just scared.
That's one I try not to think about those.
I wouldn't say, John, it was a great game. It was an okay game.
Never played it.
So so for me personally, I love Mass Effect, the original trilogy. But I made it all the way to the final boss of Andromeda. There we go. It's right there on the screen. I don't know why my brain froze.
I didn't realize that's the word you were looking for.
Yeah, no, my brain just went. And the boss stopped taking any damage, and so I had to like exit out of the game, reload. Like the whole final boss fight glitched. I was so mad. So mad.
I'm just not a huge gamer, and every now and then I'll game a little bit, but especially since I've gotten into I read with most of my free time, and like my wife and I like we'll watch TV and whatnot and be watching a show, but otherwise I read. And it's just finding hours to play video games is just not something I find myself doing very often. So like the games that I've actually played are few and far between. Um, and usually something has to really stand out for me to like actually spend a lot of time with it.
Shogun has recently gotten me excited for Ghost of Tsushima, which is a PlayStation game, and it's set in Japan. I don't know if it's set in the 1600s or when. It's set in a samurai kind of setting, but I think it's fictionalized. It's a fictionalized conflict, so it's not a historical setting. But I loved Shogun so much that I'm ready for more. Like I'm going to collect and read the entire Asian saga. I've currently got the first two. I still need to get the others, but it was such a great experience that I can't. I need a gaming experience set in like that kind of setting, so I'm very excited for it.
Fair enough. You told me some things that make me not want to read that book, but I might try it eventually.
Okay, so it's a bit of a cultural shock. Different cultural values, a different time in history.
Those are not the things you told me that made me not want to read.
I mean, it's tied into the cultural shock. Like that's the culture of the time. Are you talking about chapter 40 when I was complaining about implements?
Yeah, that
Okay,
those
yeah,
were the things.
Yeah,
that made me not
it's
want
culture
to
shock. It's 100%. Is Derek here?
He popped in. Chris popped out.
What's up? Oh, see you, Chris. I don't know if you're still here, but
He might have already popped, but
yeah, I'm just now getting like my kids are absolute hellions. I just bought like a couple video games and they're still wrapped in the plastic because I haven't had a chance to game since I beat my last game a week and a half ago. I haven't turned on my PlayStation. Like it's just sat there unloved and unwanted. But I will change that. I will change that. What's up, Derek?
We mostly use the PS4 for watching TV. That is its main purpose in our household. Occasionally games are played on it, but it's
well,
like
Bo, you got here just in time for us to start wrapping up.
Oh, I was gonna say, hey, Bo, you did make it. We're not gonna be able to hold a lot longer.
Kind of, sort of.
But
yeah. No, Nico, thank you for agreeing to do this. Like last second, like I literally messaged Nico this morning and was like, I want to bring back my Wizardly Ramblings because life has been absolutely chaotic. Initially, I had Leslie lined up, and then we just couldn't make the schedules work with the way my life is, and so like I'm gonna try and shuffle her back into the mix. But I was like, you know who's really easy to talk to for me? Nico. Let's do it. And he's like, okay,
this is
fine.
Just general conversations.
But again, if you are still watching and you have not subscribed to Nico, I do have his channel linked in the description box down below. Please check him out. My channel only exists because Nico bullied me into hopping in front of the camera. So if you like my content, you have Nico to thank.
That we convinced you to start your very successful channel.
What? I am trying to help you here, sir. Don't.
That's all good. It's I always just have to joke about it because we did bully you a little bit into starting your channel.
I was very hesitant. I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna have time. I've got a baby. I don't know if I read enough. I don't know. Like and then you're like, just do it. Just put one out. Just see what happens. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know about lighting. I don't have a tripod. Like I was grabbing like house lamps and like
Anita, no, you don't have to. It's okay. I was gonna say you won't be disappointed, but there's a good chance you will be. You know, if everybody mad at some of my hot takes, most of my videos aren't hot takes, but there's a lot of stuff. I was just saying, Anita, we actually read a lot of the same books, so I know that we have some similar opinions. I know, right? It is crazy to think, but like it's
It
because it was
almost
me
didn't
and
happen.
Megan.
It really didn't. It was funny because the Weasley Duo Discord almost didn't like. People were like, "Hey Andrew, you're catching up to Nico. Like, are you gonna start your own Discord?" And I was like, I don't want to leave. And Nico
I
was
did
like, "Well,
offer you the Discord too.
yeah." He offered me the Discord, and I said, "No, this is your Discord. We'll share it." And that's kind of what ended up happening. Did you just
Yeah.
choke on your tea? Don't do that, Nico. Choose life.
No, I just had to. I wiped some off my mustache.
Oh,
I was just
okay.
gulping down the rest. It was a big gulp.
That said, guys, thank you for taking your time to watch us just ramble about some nonsense. That's really all I got for you guys. Make sure to check out Nico and stay magical. And now we do the long goodbye.